Remember that feeling? Overwhelmed and fearful, when you couldn't see a way forward because of the many steps that stood in your way. And they kept coming, one after another. Life happens, and it happens fast. But stop, take a breath, look back. What seemed impossible then is done now, because you're not the type to be defined by what you could have been. One by one, you took another step up the ladder of your life, no matter what. Now, take another breath. Remember this feeling. Take that pride with you as you lift your feet to take that next step with us. So, what better time than now to ask yourself, what are my future goals?
Hello and a warm welcome to this Nedbank Young Professionals webinar. I'm Cultivate, and it's a pleasure to have you all joining us virtually as we look to engage, explore, and really seek inspiration as to how you, as an under 30 young graduate, professional with big dreams and desires, will certainly look to navigate through your journey. Well, as you can imagine, we are all observing the national regulations in terms of the lockdown in the prevention of the spread of COVID-19. So we do have our masks on. We are practicing social distancing in the room with the individuals that I'm with, and most importantly, practicing good hygiene purposes, not only to keep ourselves safe, but also trusting that you are doing the same at home. Now, we're grateful that you've taken out the time to join us for this conversation because, boy, it's going to get exciting. We're speaking to young, dynamic individuals. Many of them are women, and they're going to share some of their stories with us today in terms of how they changed their dreams, their ambitions, and maybe even the notes that they jotted down in the back of their diaries to transcend the challenges that they had to overcome to really fulfill their full life's desire. Now, naturally, it's not going to be an easy conversation. We will be challenging some of the thoughts, ideals, and most importantly, the success tools that they had to unpack and implement in their lives. But most of all, it's going to be exciting. Why? Because we have you with us for this journey, and we call for your active participation that we hope to engage in the next few hours. But before we do that, we are broadcasting live from the Nedbank headquarters here in Sandton in Johannesburg, and it's quite pertinent that we are doing this with a brand that seeks to look at money differently. And that also speaks to how Nedbank is empowering you as a young professional to understand your relationship with money and how you embark on your journey in seeking ongoing professional growth and how money is a key enabler to that experience. So to give us some insight from Nedbank's perspective, we joined and will be hearing from an introductory video from Grace Govender. Now, Grace is the head of new business development and sales support. She's responsible for the co-creation, coordination, and implementation of key strategic initiatives that enable and support both staff and clients to achieve their personal and business goals. Let's hear from Grace.
To our audience and our special guests, it is indeed a pleasure to welcome you to the Young Professional webinar. The topic under discussion, keeping your future goals in sight, is probably on everyone's mind. It is a time when the world seems upside down, and focusing on your future is quite a daunting prospect, especially taking into consideration the levels of uncertainty this new normal presents. Whilst this might seem like the most unlikely time to build your career or find a new opportunity, I'm reminded of what Albert Einstein once said, that in the midst of difficulty lies opportunity. As professionals and young professionals such as yourself nationwide feel the pinch of the pandemic and the economic crisis, it is probably the most opportune time to leverage the financial expertise offered by our relationship banking advisors, who are able to assist you to find the right solutions to help you through the financial challenges that you might be facing. Nedbank's private banking experience not only offers you a dedicated relationship banker for your daily banking needs, but also ensures you are connected to a wealth or credit specialist to navigate your financing and investment options, to especially guard against events that are beyond your control. You can speak to your relationship banker about a range of topics, not only aimed to provide you with financial assistance, but to help you in mapping out a plan for your future. I'm particularly looking forward to the session today. We want to hear from you about your banking experiences, and how we can help you. You can talk to your banker about various topics, whether it be lending options, investment options, whether you want to run your own business, but planning for your future is particularly important, and we look forward to hearing from you today. We have during this time assisted many of you and our clients with financial relief, both in your personal or business capacity, and we will continue to do so. So please reach out to your relationship banker. We really want to walk this journey with you. I'm also particularly pleased to share with you some of the feedback from our clients who endorse the fact that we want to partner with you, especially during these very challenging times. At Nedbank, our goal is to ensure that you see money differently. So it's an apt time that I conclude with a quote that speaks to the difference that from our late former president Nelson Mandela once said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead." We look forward to hearing from you and enjoy the session. Thank you.
Well, that was a wonderful welcome that we received from Grace, giving us some insight into just exactly how Nedbank is positioning its young professionals offering to make sure that you are in line and in charge of your journey in pursuit of your professional insights. Now, speaking of this, I think many of you are well aware that COVID-19 has really posed a threat not only to our health conditions and our livelihoods, but really to the economy as well as our opportunities to seek and pursue growth in South Africa. Now, if you took a look at the unemployment figures recently published this week, you'd know that unemployment has now breached the 30% mark in South Africa. Now, whilst you might be employed as a young professional, you might have entrepreneurial desires, but it's important that we understand how even through this crisis, we're able to pivot, we're able to revolve, evolve, and still grow and thrive within the sectors that we seek to tap into. Now, this is just an example of some of the conversations that we'll be having with our three speakers, and I would like to introduce you to them. All of them phenomenal ladies, and who will hear a little bit more insight in terms of their stories. We'll be joined by Dr Tshepiso Matentjie. We'll be joined by Advocate Aurelia Nxumalo, as well as Shongwe, who will all be giving us their insight into their stories today. Now, bear in mind that this is virtual, and whilst we would have loved to engage with you as an audience, we are quite cognizant of the fact that digital technology has the opportunity and ability to fail us at times. So we won't require you to put your mics on mute, but at some point, if the connectivity kind of slacks and we end up sounding like robots, what we advise you to do as a guest is to press the refresh button, and hopefully the webinar will be able to restart and the conversation will continue as smoothly as it had initially started. One thing we also want you to do and encourage you to use and make use of quite strongly is the questionnaire service. Now, this is available on the top left-hand corner of your screen. All you need to do is to click on the button, jot down your question, and we'll be engaging with you through those questions and comments with our various speakers here today to get some insight into their stories and, most importantly, understand what it is that you would like to learn from them directly in terms of their professional journeys. Now, don't forget, we are young, we are dynamic, we're eager, and I think if you look at all of us, we've got our tools and toys with us in our lap. So as a result, we want to strongly encourage you to make use of social media as well. The official hashtags to make use of, hashtag Nedbank Young Pro and hashtag MyFutureGoals. A reminder, hashtag Nedbank Young Pro and hashtag MyFutureGoals. So we're excited. Some of us are anxious, but most importantly, we're here to be inspired. So on that note, allow me to introduce our first speaker who'll be giving us insight into her journey and sharing some pearls of wisdom, literally. Ladies and gentlemen, and of course you as viewers at home, our next speaker is Shongwe, who has certainly become a force to be reckoned with within the media space in South Africa. Born and bred in Soweto, the television presenter, newsreader and voice-over artist is also a facilitator within the broadcasting environment in South Africa, and most importantly has carved out a niche for herself as a program director, MC and facilitator who is well respected and admired in South Africa. Speaking to us under the theme, Every Strike Leads to the Next Home Run, a warm welcome to Shongwe. Pearl, lovely to see you this morning, and we're excited to hear your story.
Thank you very much, Gugu. I always say once you've been introduced by Gugu, you've made it. And that's how I feel here today. Very nervous, but equally excited.
Fantastic. I'm excited and honored to hear more about your phenomenal journey.
So a big thank you to Nedbank and the team at HDI for making today possible. I'm very honored to be joining here amongst these amazing individuals who I know have something to inspire you and inspire me with today. Be like a child in your resilience by never letting the fear of striking out keep you from playing. I am Pearl Shongwe, and I have failed more times than I care to remember. Some say that success is not a given, but I'm excited to tell you that it is a reality only if you learn to conquer yourself. There is more than one way of winning the game. Every strike leads me to my next home run, by Babe Ruth. This is a quote that I've loved and have lived by for many, many years. What failure has taught me, I believe, has been way more valuable than what success ever could. Start where you are. I was born in Soweto, raised in Ennerdale. And for anyone who knows Ennerdale or knows anything about Ennerdale, you know that it's one of those places that have been ignored by the larger community. I got to Ennerdale at the age of 8 when we moved there with my family from Soweto. I went to a local school there. And I lived a very normal life, except I always knew what I wanted to become. By age 8, I already had a good idea of what I wanted to do as a career path. My mother always says, when a child is born, the reason why they come into the world with their fists clenched is because they are carrying their divine gifts into the world. And it is up to them to actively seek to unleash those gifts so that they become a gift to the world. I think I was very lucky because I knew that I wanted to become a broadcaster. But now, here I am in Ennerdale. Nothing ever happens. There are no opportunities there. No sporting facilities, no avenues for young people to explore their talents. Schools are generally not a happy place because they don't give you anything to be hopeful for the future for. In fact, I don't ever remember discussing or having a conversation about my dreams at that age. Being in that environment meant I was stuck there. But I wasn't. I had a dream. Like many young people, I'd watch hours and hours of television, and every time I'd ask myself, how am I going to make it? How am I ever going to see myself in front of the screen? Boy, oh boy, I was in for a long journey. Now, the things that I'm going to share with you today are all things that I've learned in hindsight about my journey. As they were happening, I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was that I was going to do everything in my power to ensure that I propel myself to greatness, just by doing the ordinary. Be curious. It's so great to discover and explore new things, and that's what curiosity is all about. So I'm in Ennerdale, doing the mundane, watching TV, going to school, coming back, playing with my sisters and friends. And yet this dream was always at the back of my mind. I remember how I would sit and watch the credits as a television program finished, and I'd say, I want to see my name there. But I had no idea what it meant to be a broadcaster. So I started to do what was natural to me. I remember just reading a lot, writing scripts. I read every little piece of literature that I could get my hands on, whether it was a pharmaceutical pamphlet, whether it was a magazine, whether it was me going to the library, getting a couple of books, but I always read. And when I read, it was never ordinary. It wasn't the usual storytelling. It was always extra, because I was already broadcasting Mos. So I'd be in front of the mirror, presenting. I'm a YoTV presenter. I am Tracy going on Morning Live. I imagined that to be my life. So I already started doing what was natural to me. I just followed my instincts, and no one had to tell me. I just did it. I'd sit and I'd read a magazine, whether it was an ad for a facial product. Upel Shongwe was already there. No. Polish this, polish that. I was already broadcasting in my living room without me realizing what I was doing. So I just did what was natural. Like the sun will rise and the sun will set. It's a natural way of being. You are your biggest resource. Of course, I come from a place where there was nothing. Back in those days, internet access was not even anything I thought about. So I decided that I would find phone numbers and I would steal the phone at home. Sorry, Mom, I know you're watching. And I would call the SABC reception. I had no idea how to get in. So I was just, collecting information, going into the yellow pages, going on to the Sowetan, the Citizen, the Star, and there were always these ads of casting agencies advertising their services and calling upon people who thought had a talent to come and join them. So I would steal the phone and I would phone and say, I want to become this, so how do you do it? And I collected information. So I started knowing and learning about agents and what they did at a very young age. This information process carried on into my high school years. And then by the time I had the confidence to tell my dad that I wanted to sign up with a casting agent, he wasn't keen. He really didn't understand what this thing was all about. But he took me to auditions and casting agents, because back then you had to pay to be on a particular casting agent's books. So of course they'd love you. Mr. Shongwe, your daughter is so talented. But no one ever called me for an audition. I never got a call to say, here's an opportunity for an ad or for presenting gig. And so I started to question if this thing was real. Because every time you heard from the people who were on screen, who were on radio, asking, how do you become a broadcaster? People would just say, get an agent, you'll be called for auditions, and yeah, you'll make it, you'll be famous. But that didn't happen. So I went on with my life. I went to high school, I went to varsity, decided, okay, let me get an education. But this thing was still at the back of my mind. It was still in my heart. I was still putting in the hours of work, speaking in front of the mirror, recording myself on my phone, just trying to keep the dream alive. Stay ready. So this dream of mine started when I was 8 years old. Now I'm in varsity. And I am in the process of looking for my first job. I landed a job at an advertising agency. And yes, now I'm just focused on the future. This TV thing might not work out. So get a job, aim to earn 15,000 Rand, afford a car and maybe a small apartment, and just forget. But I never could forget. I knew that I had a gift. I just still didn't know how I was going to get there. Then I moved from an ad agency to a production company. And one day I fell sick, so I didn't go into the office that day. It was a Friday. I'd just signed up on Twitter when I stumbled upon a tweet or a retweet from Nyan. Okay, I see this retweet. YFM is looking for an entertainment reporter. I saw this, I was healed immediately. I got a notebook, I scripted something, recorded myself on my BlackBerry. I nailed it. What? I'd been preparing for this since I was 8 years old. And here's an opportunity. And I knew that this was a sign of great things to come. So because I worked at a production company, come Monday morning, I go in, I chat to a gentleman called Adam Lomas. Adam, you need to help me record a professional demo. And so he did. Submitted it. I must have sent about 7 or 11 emails. But I wanted to make sure that through all those people that were emailing, every time they refreshed, an email from Pearl Shongwe would pop up. And then I got a response. Mo Flava called me. He was hosting the breakfast show at the time. Hey, we got your email. Would you like to come into the YFM studios to record your demo with us at our facilities? Of course, why not? I went in, recorded. I think I was selected to be in the top 10. And it was a very small segment. I think it was hardly even 4 minutes. But I made the most of it. I won by public votes. and my journey began. I don't know how many years later, after how many no's, after so many barriers of entry, this one thing came and it just happened. And I felt that was the first time I thought, okay, relax. You're doing the work. You're obviously very passionate about this. Be patient. It's not about your timing, but the timing of the universe, I guess. But grab this opportunity, it's in front of you, and make the most of it. And so the next 2 years became about my gig at YFM and my full-time job. And I worked, and I worked, and I worked. And what was so exciting about that opportunity was that I was so prepared because I'd been so hungry. I had done what was natural. I started where I was with having nothing. And here I was in this exciting environment where I was learning about mic technique. I was learning about audiences, what audiences liked, what audiences didn't like. I was learning about writing a professional script. I was learning about producing things for on air. I was learning the radio process. It wasn't television, because that's what I wanted, but it was an in, and I was going to make the most of it. That is where I started to expand my knowledge base at YFM, because I started discovering the industry. It wasn't just about radio or television, but there was a whole entire world, and I started to delve into it very slowly and very deliberately, because I thought, hi man, so what you see when you're watching TV at home is just but a drop in the ocean. There's a whole world to be discovered, and I was prepared to learn more. By learning more, I knew that I was staying ready, right? Practice makes perfect. That's what you hear all the time. So by the time that 2 years was up, and a lot of people don't know this, but I had completely effed it up at YFM. Programs manager at the time, Dumelo Diao, he let me go. He fired me. I'm sorry, Mom. I never told you these things, but silapha ngoku. I was fired because of some or other reason. At the same time, I met a gentleman called Lebo in a social gathering. I think he was aware of what I was doing at YFM, and he told me about an audition opportunity at the SABC. It was for a voiceover artist for a television show called Matentjie. The voiceover artist at the time was Caroline Fassi, and they needed someone who was going to stand in for when she's not around. So of course I took it up. I went to the SABC, I auditioned, I got it, got the gig. But now, Caroline Begangalovi, so I needed to find another avenue, right? So I don't know if you've heard that 10,000 hours is what it takes for you to become a master at what you do. And I don't know if I believe this, but where I found myself as now this voiceover artist stand in at Matentjie was that more was going to be required, right? I needed to be deliberate about my actions. I needed to continue being deliberate. Just because you'd had this gig at Y and now you've got this opportunity didn't mean that that was the end. I still needed to knock on those doors, and I did. I was like a crazy little girl, full of energy. I always ask questions. So who's the executive producer of this show? You know, I was always curious. I was always asking people questions. And at the time, I think I had decided that I was so in love with sports that I thought I wanted to become a sportscaster as well. Because remember, I was expanding my knowledge base and I was discovering that there was so much more to this industry than what I thought. I found out that there was a certain Pat Mahuma who was in charge, I think he was in charge of lifestyle programs at the time at SABC Sport. I had no idea where his office was, but I asked people questions. One day, I rocked up. I said, my name is Pearl, introduced myself. This is what I want to do. What do I have to do it? I want a show. Can you help me? He asked me, how good are you with voiceovers? I said, oh, I'm very good. Of course, I wasn't really being honest. All I'd done was record countless voiceovers on my BlackBerry phone. And I'd done this audition now at Matentjie, and they took me, but I had no experience, like real experience behind me when it came to that. And I said, no, I'm very good. And he said, okay, we'll take you and record something. Took me, recorded it, and he loved it. He said, we have the Sport Awards coming up this weekend. Would you like to come along to Sun City and you could be our voice of God for the awards. I thought, what? This is happening. And that was just from me being brave and saying, hi, this is who I am. This is what I want. Can you help me? And I never stopped doing that. I continued doing that in the years to come, and more opportunities started opening up. I remember being asked to be a stand-in presenter for a couple of their lifestyle shows. And I was still working. I was still working a 9 to 5. But I would tell my boss that, no, on a Tuesday, I'm going to record this, or I'm going to this audition. And I guess because I was so good at my job, my boss at the time didn't mind. So I was still carrying on working and still trying to pursue this dream because I knew that it needed to happen. I never stopped practicing. One day, Brapet sat with me in his office and he said, okay, we want you to be at the stadium this weekend. It's a Soweto derby, and we want you to start talking to the fans and getting people excited about the build-up. And I thought, wow. So the 10,000 hours never stopped. They continued. I continued being deliberate in my action. I continued keeping the fire alive. Yes, things are not happening. I was not getting my own show. I was not landing the gig. But little things were happening that were showing me that I was on the right track. And I had to believe that because, quite frankly, I had nothing else to believe in. And you never, ever stop learning. I love what I do to a point where people will say, oh, Pearl, your life is, you're stuck up. Like, what are you doing? And I'd even lie to friends. Didn't want to go out because I was busy. I was busy being a presenter in my bedroom at home. I was busy. That stand-in opportunity, I was taking it like I already had the show. I was taking it like I was already the main host. I was just serious about wanting this. And I had to be open. You know, when the dream started, I wanted to be a newscaster because of what I was watching and what I was exposed to. I would sit in the car, listen to Kai FM with my dad, and I'd mimic the likes of Kumbuzile Mazibuko. Listening to Highveld Stereo at the time, I'd mimic the likes of Vatis Wandaga. I was already in it, but I wasn't in it. So I learned that I had to be open in those years at the SABC. I remember the World Cup in 2014. All I'd been booked for throughout the World Cup was being a voiceover artist for, I think it was one of the lifestyle shows or one of the main shows, I can't remember. But I quit my job and I decided that I was going to volunteer. I was going to volunteer, and I did everything. Tried to do a bit of camera work, coordinating the presenters, getting water for the guests. I really threw myself into every opportunity because I wanted to remain open, just to see what else was there. Keep knocking. Fast forward, I get an opportunity to be on a sports show on SABC News to join the likes of Valen Kirtley. And of course, I was honored. You know, once again, I'd gone knocking after my World Cup stint because I felt, okay, now I've got experience. So I can actually take this and say to someone, this is what I want, this is what I've done. I've got a bit of a track record. So I met a lady called Janet Witten. She was deputy editor for sports at SABC News. Spoke to her, told her what I'd been up to, and that I wanted an opportunity and that I believed they needed a female sportscaster on the team. A couple of weeks later, with a bit of help, with a bit of luck as well, I got the call, went in to sign a contract, and yeah, no, now I was feeling good. I sang Genile show. So I'm going to live TV. I sang Genile, babes. And there was nothing that anyone could do to take away my moment. But I still needed to keep knocking. I thought, hey, there's always more. The more you discover, the more you do, the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you want. So I started thinking, no, man, I don't really want to be in the shadow of the men who are already sports anchors at the sports desk. Now I wanted my own show. Now I wanted something that I could call my own. And I carried on approaching people. I went to different EPs, executive producers, introduced myself, told them what I wanted. And one day, one of them believed in me, and they gave me my own current affairs show on the weekend. I look back at that moment, and it was just such a great affirmation to say, you're doing something right, kid. You've had so many no's, and yet here you are, just picking yourself up and having fun along the way and going after what you want. And you're finally getting it. Of course, I wasn't really a current affairs girl because now I'd invested so much of my time in the sporting world. So now I had to adjust. And in my adjusting, didn't just have to adjust, now I had to nail it. Because this person's giving me an opportunity. Now I have to prove myself. And I did. Another opportunity came as I was expanding my network. I was asked to audition for Morning Live, or Weekend Live, as some people refer to it as. I auditioned the 1 year, nothing was said. So you auditioned and then, like, no one said anything. And that's common in our industry, where you audition and you're waiting for the call to come. Like, okay, so when will we know who got it? And they'll say, like, a week. Okay, are you guys going to call the ones that didn't make it as well? Yeah, they don't call you. No one ever calls you. You just see Sning, oh, okay, she got the MTV-based gig. Oh, hey, and those no's are heart sore. They are heartbreaking. So I auditioned for Weekend Live. We never figured, we were never told the result. The following year, I was called again to audition for the same thing. And yeah, I mean, at times you do get, like, irritated because you're just like, but don't you have my audition tape from last year? But you go because you know what it would mean to you to get it. And I got it. Now, I was the Tracy going that I imagined myself to have been. Or at least I was sitting in the same chair. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. After being rejected so many times, and there have been so many times that I was rejected. I remember MTV Base, OXS. I'd make it into the top 2, and then I wasn't good enough to land the gig. And when things started happening, I realized that I had to look back and track my journey and to affirm to myself that it wasn't by mistake. It just wasn't time. It just wasn't time. It wasn't my turn. But when it was my turn, things really started to take off. The same year that I landed, I think Weekend Live, or it was the year before, I'd gone to so many castings that you're so used to the rejection that you walk away from an audition thinking, they'll call me when they call me. But I'm done. I'm forgetting about this casting. And it was actually a Nedbank casting. And they're looking for someone who would star alongside Eugene Khoza for a series of their adverts. And I was one of the main characters. I went in, I auditioned. The director just loved me. And I got the part. I didn't have to fight anyone, didn't have to trample on anyone's toes. Things just really started happening. My network was expanding once more. My world was opening up. Where I am now. It's 2020. I've reached so many great milestones in my career. I've had so many highs. I've had so many things go right. I'm one of those people who can safely say, I'm happy with where I am in my career. Well, that was last year, or the beginning of this year. I'm one of the most frequently booked voiceover artists in the country. People rate me as a presenter. I'm on Metro FM as a newsreader and co-host. I get booked to MC all these amazing events. But I knew that something just wasn't quite right. So I lost my dad at the beginning of 2018. And it was very hard to be the same after that. Everything that I'd worked for, everything that I wanted just seemed so insignificant, because I'd lost such an important figure in my life, the person that I wanted to make the most proud. It wasn't there anymore. And then through just some philanthropic work that I'd occasionally get involved in, I came across the Trek for Mandela expedition. And I decided something needed to change, because I realized that I was never going to be the same again. And so I needed to go on a path of creating the new Pearl, because I just couldn't get the old Pearl back, because I'd lost so much. And the pain had stolen so much from me. So I decided that, okay, I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds for girls who need sanitary towels and to honor my dad. And for that, I needed to be brave. I needed to commit to something. And for anyone that knows me, ngiyavilapha, I do not like exercising. But it meant that I had to commit to this thing. And it's Kilimanjaro. People die on Kilimanjaro. But I also knew that there was just no growth in being comfortable. And while that was happening with me prepping for Kili, a shift was also happening in my career, where I felt like I was comfortable now. You know, I could walk in and just present just like that. I could do whatever. Basically, the world was at my feet, but I was missing the more. And I knew that I was starting to become my own mountain. By that I mean I was starting to become the person that was blocking me from moving forward. So yes, you've managed to achieve the things that you have, but is that all? Is that all? Mm-mm. I wanted more. So I climbed Kili, I made it, came back, reached the highest peak in Africa. Thank you. But there was an even greater mountain. I knew that looking at where I was at in my career, there was just a yearning, and I knew that something had to change. What was that change? I had to start conquering myself. I had to really decide, what do I want? I had to start looking at the future goals. Okay, so you've chased this dream, it's happening now, you're in a great place financially, you're in a great place socially, you're doing well at work, you're being recognized, you're being acknowledged. But it doesn't end there. I started to have other dreams, I started to have other aspirations. As I tapped into my other passion points, I realized I'm an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I want to go back and give my business a second chance. At the time, I mean, it had been 6 years where I was working 7 days a week. Monday to Friday, I was working as a sports anchor on one of the news bulletins. Weekends was morning live. I wasn't resting. I knew that something had to change, but I was comfortable. And we don't like it when something is trying to shake our comfort, because it means now we have to go through this daunting process of growing into another level. And when I resigned from Morning Live in March, a lot of people couldn't understand, because, you know, in our business, we're freelancers. So it was a matter of, udlala ngemali, nemali, ne? And it wasn't about that. It wasn't about the fact that I was ready to give up being on television. It was my dream. But it was time for me to explore other dreams. It was time for me to focus on the next phase of my life. And I became brave, and I walked away from Weekend Live, and I'm well on my way to becoming that property mogul that I want to become, that successful media entrepreneur. Decided that I needed to open up my world, because being comfortable was no longer enough. And that is why now I can walk away from the things that I know are keeping me back from reaching my full potential. So I hope you remember to have fun along your journey. I hope you remember to forgive yourself. I hope you remember that rejection, no matter what, means nothing for your, it doesn't speak to your abilities. It just means that it wasn't time. And from my journey, I hope you learned that resilience does get you there. and be like a child. When a child falls playing a game, they get up, they dust themselves off, and they continue playing. Have that approach. Just be a child and enjoy yourself, and you'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearl. I think quite a phenomenal conversation. I'm left already in awe. Not only picking up on some similarities we have about Ennerdale, the Dale,
Ooh,
by the way,
Dale.
way south of Johannesburg. But I think just in awe in terms of certainly understanding how you constantly push to the next level. And as you say, every strike led you to the next home run. So we're incredibly inspired. Already seeing some questions where people are keen to understand how you merge some of your studies together with your personal experience. But we'll be delving into that in just a moment or two.
Fantastic.
And your mother, by the way, side note, will she be upset by some of the confessions shared
I
today?
think she's forgiven me already.
Well, we certainly hope so. That was Pearl Shongwe, and of course we want you to keep your questions coming in terms of seeking inspiration from her story, and most importantly also showing us that even the creative spaces industry can be professionalized, and you can tap into other opportunities too that exist in that particular space. So we'll delve into those questions in just a moment, but we want to keep your fire burning, and for that we follow up with another presentation. But we do understand some of you might be struggling with technicalities slightly, so please do feel free at any point in the conversation. Should technology happen to fail you, press the refresh button. We are on and will be live throughout the course of the next hour and a half, so please do continue to log in and press the refresh button to make sure that you participate in this conversation. We don't want to leave you behind, so stay with us. And as we continue with the conversation going forward, we also want to remind you to keep the feedback on social media going. Your questions are coming through, and we certainly want to hear your comments on social media. The official hashtags to use: Nedbank Young Pro and hashtag my future goals. So please keep that coming too, as we want to hear some of your thoughts, feedbacks and opinion. And we understand some of the difficult challenges that many of you are facing in terms of what it is that you want to study, how you align that to your passion, and maybe even pursuing new opportunities of growth. We'll address those questions at the end of the presentations from all our speakers today. Well, let's move on to someone who is known to be a legal eagle and an influencer of note on social media. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Aurelia Nxumalo. Well, she's a well-known and admitted advocate of the High Court of Southern Africa. Now, she's currently the lead in legal at Youth Economic Alliance, and which is a non-profit organization established to drive the development and advancement of youth entrepreneurship. She's also a skilled in-house legal counsel whose day-to-day duties include drafting, vetting, and reviewing contracts, as well as attending to any legal or governance matters for the organization. Now, that's not the only thing she does. She also happens to be a budding social entrepreneur, co-founder of The Professionista, as well as co-founder of My Learned Friend. She's also a Play Your Part ambassador, a campaign driven by Brand South Africa. I think you can tell by the accolades that all of our speakers have really ranked up today that they certainly have worked hard for their positioning in the world today. But just exactly how did she do it? Well, speaking to us under the theme Preparation Meets Opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, Aurelia Nxumalo. Great to see you, and fantastic to have you with us.
Great to see you too. Oh, wow.
We know we've sanitized, we've kept your mask on,
Yes.
so we're glad that you're in compliance with the regulations, because you know what that would mean if we didn't comply.
Definitely. I wouldn't be here. I would have walked out already.
Exactly. Aurelia, we're looking forward to the presentation. I guess leave us inspired.
Thank you for such an amazing introduction, and welcome to the viewers at home. Thank you for joining us and signing up to our link. So, never in a million years have I could have ever thought that my story would be inspiring. My journey would be a story that I speak about on this platform, or a platform of this magnitude. So I'm very, very appreciative for the opportunity. And again, I was ready. Thank you, Pearl. Me and you, preparation, I'm with you. I've been preparing myself to be on this chair. The Professionista, as a co-founder, our hashtag is You Can Sit With Us. And I'm so happy to be sitting with you ladies and to be sitting here with the young professionals that Nedbank has chosen for me to be part of. Back to my presentation. So where does it start for Aurelia Nxumalo? I love this. That's me, my skinny self at a time, probably last year. So keeping your future goals in sight, which is something that can be so difficult amidst a global pandemic, when you envision and you write your visions at the beginning of the year, how do you maintain your visions from the beginning of the year when this global pandemic has shaken the entire world? I start with defining what opportunity is. Opportunity needs to be defined because when you understand the definition of something, it's easier for you to apply it. My title was Preparation Meets Opportunity, which is from a Roman philosopher. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that's what my story is about and how I prepared myself from a very young age of 5 years old. That's a very young person, and that is me at 5 years old. At my 5th birthday, I was born in Newcastle, Osizweni Eplabosh, KZN girl. I went to go visit my grandparents in Durban, and it was my first visit. And again, I was, exposed to the beauty of Durban. I was like, this is my life. This is where I need to be at 5 years old. Went back home. I don't give my parents an option. I still don't right now. I sat them down and I said, I would like to go live in Durban with my grandmother and my grandfather. They're like, no, but I was like, don't worry, I've already spoken to them. So I've already decided that this is what we're doing. I'll finish grade 1 and then I'll go. Mind you, grade 1 is at proper Zulu school. I don't even know English at that point. So I'm like, no, they live in Tongaat. I'm going to go live there and they're going to find me a school and that will be my life. I'll come visit during the school holidays in July and December, and that's how we're going to do this thing between us. So I spotted an opportunity and I ran with it, and I'm so glad that they listened to a 5-year-old because this is why I'm here now. So grade 3 is the time that I eventually moved to Durban. I was 6 going on 7. I go to my interview at Tongaat Primary, and confidently so, they say, okay, cool, we know you don't understand English. My gran is there, she's a narrator, and she says, okay, do you know your ABCs? I'm like, of course, what do you mean? Please, can you recite the ABCs? And they're like, no, in English. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, no, we have to start you back in grade 1. So I hear it was grade 1. I was like, no, I've done this already. I can't go back. Try me out in grade 3. If I fail, then you can send me back to grade 1. They listened. I've never failed a grade without knowing English. So thanks for that. So that determination, that confidence, that preparation started from that age. I'm raised by a psychologist. I think when we then moved into Lelucia, she realized that I was very shy and the change was a difficult thing for me to do. She was like, you know what, we're not going to deal with this. You're going into modeling school to build your confidence, to build yourself. So where are we now? We're now in year 2001. I'm doing grade 8. That's the ambitious girl who came back home on her first day at grade 8 and said, Gran, I'm going to be a prefect by the time I'm in matric. She was like, okay, good for you, well done. What I then did for the 4 years from grade 8 is make sure that I was involved in any activity that would make sure that when they call up the acting prefects in grade 11, my name was there. Yes. So now, Environmental Society, Student Christian Society, Council, library monitress, I was there. I was doing drama. I was doing basketball, netball, athletics. I had colors for cross country. I can run, yo. So I had colors for cross country, and I was like, I need to make sure that I'm on the radar, that in the event when they're choosing acting prefects in grade 11, my name is there. Then once we get to matric, when they are now dropping down the list and choosing the actual prefects, my name will still be there. So that's where the checklist behavior began and the preparation began. Mind you, at that time, I was also a multi-talented, multifaceted. I've been working since I was in grade 8. That work ethic instilled in me by my grandparents, who have worked for every single thing that they have. They did it with all the children that they raised as well. So if I was not at school during the weekends, I was doing a Coca-Cola or a promotion. I was at Beach Africa, modeling, wearing. I was Miss Pick and Pay 2005. Won groceries for a year for my family. Great times. I mean, it wasn't money at that point, but I mean, it did the things. I remember when visiting my grandmother, my other grandmother in Newcastle, where after I just won, and she was just like, "This is why your third name is Nonkokelo. You need to pay up now for the family." And I was like, "This is it. I'm living up to my name." There's a fourth name that I'm going to tell you about. I did have to take it off because, I mean, it was getting too long, you know. It was getting too long to write in any form or my ID. So that's where the checklist behavior began for me in high school. And I remember now as well when the varsities would come and do career days at our school, and they're like, "Okay, this is what you need for law." Okay, you have to have 36 points, you have to have studied, get an A in history. And I was like, well, my maths is not good anyway, so history, I'm there, and everything else. I got the A in history, I got the 36 points and more. I was like, no, I need to get to at least 40, so that in the event that there's two of us and we are the last people, I must not be at 36 because they need more than 36. So I was like, do 40 and make sure that you are there undoubtedly. So that's what I did. I got my 40 points, got accepted into law at UKZN Howard College, and it must have been now 2006. So going back, this is a fact file that I had in high school that I wrote to my friends. This is really important, and you're going to see at the end of it why. You can't see the last part, but it reads, "If I disappeared today, what would I like to be said about me?" The last part in that fact file that a friend of mine sent to me recently is "Be happy." That was me in high school. I'm not sure which year I wrote this, but my last thing that I wrote was "Be happy." I was a writer. I had, the scrapbooks. I had all of that. In grade 11, I also recall writing that in 5 years, I would be a successful corporate lawyer. Yes, I wrote that without understanding what corporate lawyer meant until I went through the journey, and I'll tell you what it meant to me, what it means to me now, and what I wrote as I was in my 16-year-old self. I present to you the multifaceted ray of sunshine. This is the modeling part of me, which I really, really loved because it gave me so much money, to the point that I bought my first car with what I won from modeling. I won 3 pageants in 1 week. Miss Suncoast, Miss Nashua Dolphins cricket team, yes, yeah, and Miss Vodacom. I won all that money and achieved it was about 100,000. Went to Zeta car sales with my granddad. I was like, there's 100,000. I've already got my license. You said if I have a license, I'm buying my own car. Please may you assist in buying this car for me. But I already had the money. So he did, but that was me and my preparation. And also the double-edged sword that I loved about that is that it was building my confidence. It was building me to be on platforms like this and speak as nervous as I am and be able to tell my story and able to have a thread leading and my path to resonate with the next person, or for the next person to learn from me. The Professionista is born. The Professionista was officially born 6th June 2015, which was the year of my graduation, or rather the month and day of my graduation, having attained my LLB degree in 2014. This was born, it was a dream. I mean, I have to tell you this because I started my degree at UKZN. I did not finish it at UKZN. I have to tell the story because, again, it speaks to, I don't really ask for permission, I just let you know. So in me getting to Joburg was a tough one. It was the World Cup, and I was struggling because at some point my grandparents were like, yes, okay, we're supporting the modeling at the beginning. Now you need to just focus on school. And I said, but you guys know I don't know how to operate that way. I operate on pressure. I operate on doing various things that fuel me and keep me going and keep me, on that level of excitement and constantly working. So I then, when they were away, I think they were in Paris, I secured a job as a PA in Johannesburg. So I gave them a call because at home the rule was you do not leave the house until you're married. I was like, no, that's not my life plan. It's not going to happen that way. I've got no control of that. But what I do have control of is my education, my work, and my journey in my career. So I got into my little bubbles. I drove to Johannesburg. To start, I was working doing promotions during the World Cup, and then when the World Cup was over, I was then a PA at a beautiful company in Melrose, which then also paid and became my bursary sponsor once I had been in the company. They didn't speak to me for at least 6 months, but again, I was like, if I waited for you to come back, I know I was never going to be able to leave. I was not going to give them an option to say no. So now they don't want me to come back home because they're like, yeah, you've done so well. If all else fails, I know I can go back home, but they don't. They say, figure it out there in Joburg. We're happy with you there now. It works out. So that's why I can try to do it again and give them another 6 months to get over it and then be on the same level that I'm in. So yes, the Professionista is born, and I go back to my writing. So I show you this. This is something I wrote in 2015 on my vision board. I believe in vision boards. I write. It's no different this year. I graduated my Bachelor of Laws. I was working in the legal sector, by now moving from the company I was working with where it was just strictly actuaries, and then actually going to do a less of a job in terms of my degree, because I was like, I need to get into this company, I need to get into this legal department, and the only position they had was legal assistant. So anybody who would have said to you was like, but you've graduated, you are qualified, why would you take a legal assistant position? I was like, because there's nothing for me to look down on. It's only going to be a stepping stone. I just need to get into the company, and then I'll work my way up to exactly the position that I want to be with. And that's exactly what I did. I stayed about 2 or 3 years in that company, and even in that company, while I was studying, I then was very interested in governance and compliance management, and then got seconded to the fraud and risk department to then be a fraud specialist as well. And once I was in the fraud department, I was studying fraud investigation and forensic audit. They used to tease me and say, "Guthi ngisifundiswa." And I am. I was raised by Isfundiswa, and I take such great pride in that. Again, I'd like to highlight the social media manifesto, Aspire to Inspire, which is what I do with the Professionista in passing the baton and sharing my journey, my career journey with graduates, with girls from high school, to say, listen, I am where I am. My journey has been difficult. I've had to learn new things along the way, but it is attainable. It is accessible. It can be done. That's my biggest manifesto, to just show how possible and how attainable it is, because sometimes the goal can look so far because you are seeing somebody from broadcasting, you can't even reach them, and you are seeing somebody that's probably, you know, a veteran and has been in that career for 30 years. And it's just like, you forget that these people were young at some point as well. So when you can show your journey while you're still aspiring to be better, to get to your eventual goal, and also just looking ahead and also being inspired by those that have already walked the journey, it's also just motivational and encouraging for yourself that you're not at your final destination, but you can also appreciate that you've also done something to inspire the next person. Again, I highlight, be happy. It's not going to change. The last thing on any of my vision boards is to be happy, because it makes no sense to attain all of these things and to do all of these things and get involved and do so much work and still not be a happy person, because that's where your point of departure must be, and that's where my point of departure is from being happy. Am I happy with the person I am? Am I proud of the person that I am? It starts with me at any given time before I make the next person proud. Am I proud? Am I happy? Am I content with the decisions and the way my life is moving? Yes, so 2015 to presenting advocate Aurelia Nxumalo. You know, when COVID started and, well, affected South Africa more than, I think it was the 27th of March, I remember thinking, wow, how is any of the stuff that I've written going to happen this year? How is any of it going to happen? Because everything is closed. There's no way, you know, and I remember in an interview, I pride myself in, you know, my flexibility. I love TD Jakes to death, and he always says that you must always have your adaptability quotient, meaning how adaptable are you? How adaptable are you to change? So I'm busy talking to people, yeah, my adaptability quotient, and now this is you. Can you adapt? Can you apply what you keep preaching? Do you know what it is to be flexible? And that's what I love about being thrown in the deep end. I've feared a lot of things. My theme this year has been fearless. It's still fearless. I've had a lot of fear. I come from that place that when I'm comfortable, that's it. Like, I'm comfortable. Don't move me. I can research. I love researching every single way why this is not going to work. I've now had to go against myself and say, no, maybe research every single reason as to why it would work. You don't need to know how. You know, life has actually shown me that sometimes you honestly don't even need to know the how. Just jump in and you will figure it out. And that's what I love about this global pandemic, is that it's given me that creativity, that innovation that I have. I will tell you about a platform that got started during this pandemic, something that I possibly could have never thought of in my comfort zone. In the spirit of being fearless, I remember posting this bicycle on social media, and I said, you know, people say it's as easy as riding a bike. Well, I can't ride a bike. No. Now what? I can't ride a bike. So what must I do? I can't use that term because I don't know. So it can't be that easy for me. What did I then do? An action person, a planner. I looked at where I can start learning, where I can ride a bike. And then, of course, COVID happened and I couldn't learn how to ride a bike. But when this is all over and they open again, I'm going to go learn how to ride a bike. In the spirit of being fearless, I also made friends. It's an actual video where I made friends with a 4-month. He doesn't look 4 months, but that's a lion, and he is 4 months apparently. But yeah, it was in the spirit of being fearless, and I had to do these things where I was training myself and training my mind to be fearless, because fear can really, really trap you. As I said, I can research every single way why something is not going to happen. In my own career, I had to find out by myself through research that there's so many different ways to skin a cat in this law idea. I go back to the 16-year-old vision that I said, where I'm going to be a corporate lawyer in 5 years. I'd always thought it was going to be in practice because that's all I was told. I was told this is the only way this can be done. You do 4-year degree, you do 6 years article, then you do your attorney admissions, then you become an associate, and that's the only path that I was taught, and that was the only path I knew until I was in it, and I was like, wait a minute. None of you thought that when I said corporate lawyer, I meant an in-house corporate lawyer, because I'm not a practice person. For me, myself, and my self-awareness, knowing that I'm not, I like flexibility. Flexibility then translates to me being within an organization, whether it be a financial institution, wink, wink, and it's and it's an in-house legal role. That's where my drive is, and that's what I meant 13 years ago when I wrote in my little scrapbook, and something I learned in my journey as to what I actually meant at that time. So yes, I had visions of 2020. I am still unwavering in my goals. I am still stuck on those very goals. My goal is still to be happy. My goal is still to be infectious. My goal is still to aspire. My goal is still to inspire those behind me who are looking at me for inspiration. What have I learned? I've learned to swim really fast. I've learned to run. I've learned to just dive in. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you will learn along the way. You will learn how to swim. You will learn how to do the backstroke, the butterfly. What's the other one? Yeah, freestyle, all of those, a doggy paddle, exactly, you will learn. So again, that is a choice. I love Tuesday because it's synonymous with choosing. I choose to be happy every single day. Tuesday is the favorite day of the week for me. I just need to translate that happiness to all the other days of the week. But on a Tuesday, nothing can get in my way because I've decided and I've chosen to be happy. I've chosen to work. I've chosen to swim. I've chosen to take this leap of faith. I've chosen to be unwavering in my goals. I've chosen to be flexible but unwavering in what vision that I have for myself. Position yourself for opportunity. I say this all the time. I practice this, that prepare yourself even if you feel you are over-prepared. Rather be prepared for something and the opportunity comes than to not be prepared and the opportunity comes and you can't even use it or do anything with it. Expose yourself to many things. I love TD Jakes. I listen to podcasts. I listen to Oprah. I listen to so much where I expose myself and I share that exposure with other people because for me, you learn so much and so many different things that you're feeding and so many aspects of yourself and different facets. I did say I'm multifaceted. I'm a mom. I'm a partner. I have a sanitary pad initiative that I run. I am now an entrepreneur. I am this advocate and all of those things. I'm not an advocate just because, I did the whole degree thing. I'm an advocate for professional development. I'm an advocate for personal development. I'm an advocate for life. I'm an advocate to be a life enthusiast, be optimistic. So when the global pandemic came through, I was not a pessimist. I was optimistic. I am positivity. I choose to be positive. I choose to be an optimist in every single thing that I put my hands and my mind to. Yeah, so that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank
a wonderful
you.
presentation, and I think you've left a lot of people inspired. Seeing quite a few tweets that are coming in and showing us that people are quite encouraged by much of the energy as well as the quotes that you've shared with us here today. So a great story of encouragement as we pass the clicker on to get sanitized. And of course to our next speaker in order to give us some insight. To those of you though who continue to share your feedback with us, thank you so much. We are seeing the tweets coming through. A lot is being said. I see, Pearl, that you've also got some feedback in terms of those high phone bills that were blamed on your siblings instead of yourself. And of course, the energy is being loved and admired in terms of understanding the legal landscape and how your rebellion has really proven to work in your favor, Aurelia. So we'll certainly build up on that. So please do keep those tweets coming. Again, the hashtag to use is Nedbank Young Pro and hashtag MyFutureGoals. To the likes of @NomondeSA, @Disebo, as well as Monbialange. Thank you so much for your tweets. Keep them coming. We are seeing them and we're excited to see your participation with us here. Well, I think quite interesting in terms of the various aspects of personality and experience that we've seen, from rejection to rebellion. But how does this build resilience? And most importantly, allow individuals to be resolute in their thinking? At times, as you've heard, it might require a lot more flexibility, but it really does go back down to your mind, your mental ability and stability in order to push through with the visions and the goals that you establish for yourself. Well, in order to help us tap into the thinking of the mind, we've got a speaker who is well astute within that area. She has more than 2 decades of experience within the psychology, the environment, as well as a career in academia. She's well listed as having a PhD in psychology. She is trained as a coach with the Center for Coaching at the UCT Graduate School of Business, as well as a co-active coach with the Coaches Training Institute. If ever we needed to get more clarity and certainty about our positioning, centering who we are with what it is that we want to do, we're certainly going to be left motivated, inspired, and having a lot more to think about by our next speaker. Giving us a presentation on understanding how we are wave riding and crest jumping, our next speaker is Dr. Tshepiso Matentjie. We are so looking forward to your presentation. Pearl and I have both interacted with you on different platforms, and many of us have heard you on radio before, and we think, the depths of the thought. But I think today you're definitely going to be sharing some practical tools with us as well.
I hope so. I am so intimidated by you guys.
Oh
my gosh. Thank you so much, Gugu, and for Pearl and Aurelia. It's been such an inspiration to listen to you hiding behind my mask. It's such a privilege to be here with you guys from home, joining us via the web. But I guess also to be here with Nedbank talking to you about my topic. I want to talk about wave riding and crest jumping. And I want to share a little bit as well in terms of how some of these things that we are going through and what they have gone through, the different speakers have gone through, how you can pick up lessons for yourself and just pearls of wisdom to be able to implement them in your life, particularly with regards to the environment we are in. Now, what I understand is that as young professionals out there, the environment right now is really honestly very turbulent, just like being on the sea. It is very difficult for young professionals right now. And what I would love for you to be able to take from our conversations today, but especially specifically from my talk, is how to foster coping and build resilience. What are the kinds of things that you can do so that you are able to ride the waves that you are facing right now, but also recognize those opportunities which are like crests, and then be able to jump from one crest to the next one, which is be able to move from one opportunity to the next, and then you don't shut down doors for yourself or deplete yourself in the endeavor of trying to cope and deal with the challenges that you are facing. Now, the first part is that in riding the wave, there's an acknowledgement about the fact that waves are challenging, especially as they get bigger, whether they are from a storm or whatever that might be happening in the elements. But this is a conversation about facing elements. Now, as young professionals, particularly the millennials. Now, we include the millennials as from 26 to the age of 40, which means you're still young. I mean, if you think if you're about turning 40 this year, you still have 20 more years or 25 years of work, isn't it? Because you stop working around 60 or 55 for some people if you are lucky. But if you think about who you are at this age as a young professional, you've literally, if you are from 30 upwards, you entered the job market during the last global recession. And that is a challenge on its own, because as you were coming in, the opportunities for you to climb up that ladder, to even get a placement in an environment that maybe was challenging or commensurate with your skills or your knowledge, you might find it have been reduced because there was a recession at the time when you entered the job market. Secondly, because of the pandemic right now, a lot of companies are retrenching. We are seeing people having their income reduced as well. So for young professionals right now, you're finding that you have less income. You might find that you have less assets and you have less wealth. You haven't had enough time to build up enough assets and wealth to be able to deal with the challenges that the pandemic has posed towards you. Thirdly, we know that the time that the pandemic happened, especially during this period, this is supposed to be your peak earning years. You make most of your money, you make your biggest impact financially during this period within those age groups. But what's happening now with the pandemic is that for a lot of people, they're going to regress in terms of their source of earnings. And that is a concern. How will I ever recover? How do I maintain the different things, the lifestyles that I've gotten accustomed to? How do I continue to progress and navigate these waters of life with all the assets and the responsibilities that I have and the dreams that I have that I want to go on? So it's a challenging period for now. And that is why I've got that picture of somebody trying to sail and you've got a big shark just trying to gobble you in. So there's a couple of things that we also see in my practice and in the different platforms that we have where people are talking about rising debt. You still have to pay your bond or your rent. You've got a car that you're financing. You've got black tax people who are requiring for you to still get them vegetables and electricity at the end of the month, yet your pot of money is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then, of course, there's the student fees that you might still be paying, or you're even financing your own siblings to go through tertiary because you are the first person maybe who's gone through tertiary education, or who's working, who's able to help out financially. We also know that just because COVID-19 has happened and the number of gigs that you used to do have been shut down in terms of the gig economy, so you only have a few opportunities to make money, that doesn't mean your responsibilities have reduced. Life still demands that you be able to hustle with all of those responsibilities. Now, we also know that for young professionals, you may be having young dependents. A lot of them either are new moms or new dads. You've got a couple of kids coming in. You might be part of a blended family with some of the kids who are right now navigating school in the age of the pandemic. And you realize that the crash fees and the school fees, you must still be able to come up with that money. No one necessarily is going to understand about you accumulating debt just because of the pandemic has happened. You still need to navigate those waters. So I want to start with the slide acknowledging the fact that as a young professional, right now, the waters are choppy. There's sharks, there's challenges that you are facing. Let's acknowledge it, because it is important that you know that you are heard, you know that you are seen, and that whatever it is that you may be going through, whatever it is that you're not able to articulate, there are people out there that are going through the same thing. You are not alone. It's a valid concern that you may be having, and recognize that you may be riding this as a young professional through different emotions, but recognize that there's different steps that you may be going through, particularly in terms of dealing with all of these challenges. Now, if your salary has been cut, for example, or you are having to give up your house or the school where your children were educated at the beginning of the year, and now you have to go back to where you came from, whether it's the rural areas or the township, because you can no longer afford that flat. You can no longer afford that bond. You can no longer afford those school fees. The first thing is, why me? You've got the shock. Why me? Why is this happening to me? How come so-and-so, they are fine, they look they're okay. You look at Instagram, you look on Twitter, everybody looks like they're okay. Pearl and Aurelia, they look like they are fine. Tshepiso, they looks like you're fine. You feel like you are victimized. And then the next emotion is the anger. You are literally pissed off with everybody. You are so pissed off that you cannot even look yourself in the mirror, because you recognize, I have failed. All the goals, all the checklists that I put for myself as a young professional that I should have achieved, I am nowhere near. I have regressed in terms of the goals that I wanted to achieve. Anger is one of those emotions that you may be experiencing. And you might not even notice it, but you are being choppy with other people, you're being testy, you are being abrasive, you're being short, you are cutting them down, or you're just reactive because this has happened, it's COVID, I'm alone, I'm staying home, everybody's just in my space, or whatever the issues might be. Recognize that those emotions that you're going through, it's part of dealing with those challenges, and you psychically, emotionally, mentally, and physically expressing and experiencing what you're going through. The other types of emotions that you might be going through is depression. I want to pause there, because we've been speaking in the different platforms about the fact that COVID-19 has triggered a lot of emotions. It's actually another form of trauma that people are going through. Now, as a young professional, you're supposed to be on top of your world, right? Your career is supposed to be flourishing. But you are sad. You are sad because you are encountering failure and all of these challenges and regression in a way that you never thought is possible. And it's difficult to navigate these waters. So being sad, feeling like you don't want to wake up, like you don't want to brush your teeth, like you don't want to talk to your mom again today. Whatever it is that you may be going through, understand that those emotions are real, and it's time for you to speak to somebody, pick up that call, reach out to a mental health care professional to speak about what you're going through. It's going to be okay, but acknowledge where you are so that you can get the help that you need. And then, of course, there's the guilt that is going to come just before you reach the other side, right? And the guilt comes with, what could I have done differently? What, was I sleeping? Did I miss something? Was there something on my list? Should I have taken this job? Should I have bought this car? Should I have chosen this neighborhood? What should I have done differently? Where you recognize the guilt comes from you feeling like you have messed up somewhere. You've made a mistake. The problems that are happening are actually indicating your areas of failure, your character flaws, and then you're feeling guilty because now you are not able to live up to the things that you set up yourself. You're also feeling like you're a burden to other people. You are tired of telling people, ish, I am not okay, because people actually are just going on with their lives. Lockdown, it's now on level 3. Let's all be okay. The restaurants are opening. Let's go out and hang out. But you realize you can't because you are not at the place where everybody's at. And you're feeling like I'm going to be a dampener to people's experiences. So as a young professional, there might be feelings of guilt that you might be feeling. And that might also cause you to even want to retract and withdraw and isolate yourself further from other people because you don't want to be a party pooper. You don't want to be that person who is always a negative Nelly, and you're feeling bad about the fact that you are not happy and you're not recovering as well as you should be. The last stage in terms of riding this emotional wave is acceptance and relief, where you actually realize, COVID caught me. You know what? Things happen. And I'm a big girl, or I'm a big boy. I made it. How did I make it? And for you, it might not be right now, but recognize that you will get there. I want you to understand that. Recognize the phases. Recognize that you are riding the wave. If you are stagnating in one emotion, that's one of the telltale signs that you're not okay. Reach out to somebody. But recognize also that the wave is not just flowing in one direction. Just like the sea, you go in, you go out. They flow in, they flow out, just like the tides. So recognize that you might also be moving forward and then taking a couple of steps back. You might be going on a roller coaster with regards to these emotions. That is normal. You are not crazy. However, it helps when you've got a counselor, when you've got a friend, when you've got a mentor, when you've got somebody that you can speak to who can help you navigate the emotional roller coaster of the challenges that you may be facing as a young professional. Now, wherever you are, let's talk about how do I navigate this? How do I get myself to a place where I know I'm going to be okay? I just have to keep myself thinking positively, like Aurelia said. I need to keep grinding. And there's 3 things that I would like you to recognize. The first one is, in getting your basics right, you need to take care of yourself. Emotional health and wellness is important. You are your own best asset. So if you are going to be doing anything, yet your tank is running empty and you can't even see that emotionally you are running empty. We're not going to talk about coping and resilience and bouncing back and cultivating opportunities and jumping on them. We're not going to do that because they'll be sitting right next to you like Aurelia is sitting next to me. And you're like, oh, hi, Aurelia. How are you? Sharp. Bye. Because, really, you don't even have the energy to engage and pick a brain about how did you do that fashionista thing? You're not going to because your mind is shut down and arrested by the trauma of where you are emotionally. So it's important that you recognize that you need to take care of yourself, whatever that means. Now, also recognize that as a young professional, you've been hustling, you've been doing gigs, you've been doing multiple things, and that consumes energy. And most of us, when we are actually driven and doing what we want to do, we're very poor at self-care and work-life balance because you are chasing the next wave, you're chasing the next opportunity. And now, during this COVID-19, what I hope you will do with the pandemic and with the lockdown is take a moment to reflect, do I need to revise my healthcare practices, my self-care practices? Do I need to revise the way that I spend money on all of those things? Because I actually now need to use this opportunity, like you do in winter, to fine-tune what your purpose is. Because for some of us, maybe we landed in one career because that's what was in front of us, and it's an opportunity for you to recalibrate. So it's important now to find out, how do I start again a new page, following a purpose-driven life? What is the purpose that I want? How do I cultivate those things? But also, how do I maintain that work-life balance so that I don't deplete myself emotionally and psychologically and I take care of myself? The second thing I want us to talk about in terms of getting your basics right is, please, can you know your growth areas? Like Gugu, like when we tell you how amazing you are when you were speaking, can you recognize that we are seeing and appreciating your brilliance? And can you go, yes, I know. I know you're not a conceited person, that you are not arrogant. We know that. We can see it. We can sense it. But understand you've got strengths. Celebrate them. And when people are recognizing them, say, thank you, I know. Right? But knowing your growth areas and recognizing your strengths also comes with you understanding how you can be your own saboteur. I think, Pearl, you spoke a little bit about it, where you sabotage yourself because you just don't think I'm worthy. Why did they say I'm good enough as a broadcaster, as a presenter? No, they just like me. It's just because of, we are together. You minimize even the compliments that are in front of you. Or you were thinking, as Aurelia was saying, that I don't wait for people to invite me. I do it, and then you'll catch up with me as I go on. I take the lead, and you think, how can I'm too forward, and then you start pulling yourself back. So recognize those types of behaviors as sabotage. You becoming a saboteur on your own life. Also, part of you knowing your growth areas where you need to develop further, is recognize the people you are with. Because maybe you shouldn't be hanging around Tshepiso. Maybe I really am an unhealthy person in your life. But recognize it's not necessarily because I'm trying to bring you down. Maybe I'm just shining too brilliantly and you are intimidated by me. But the fact that you're constantly comparing yourself to me, you end up feeling like you're inadequate, you're inferior. So maybe just take a breather away from Tshepiso, hang around somebody who makes you feel like you are good. And then you'll come back after a couple of months and say, you thought you were better than me. I'm on the same level, I'm better. So recognize the unhealthy relationships that you may be having and then grow in those areas. And what I mean is cut them off. Find out the people that are not that are unhealthy for you. Find out where you want to go with this new purpose, this new goal that you want to achieve, and where you want to grow in your life. And then the ones who are not going to help you fly like eagles, the chickens, move away from them. Cut those relationships out. Of course, there's other relationships you can't cut out. Like, if mom and dad are part of the unhealthy relationships that you're having, you're going to have to learn new ways of dealing with them. But that's part of your growth areas. Now, use also this period of the pandemic to look at where you need to upskill yourself. Do you need to go for further education? There's a reason some of us are addicted to learning. Whenever people ask me how many degrees I have, I'm embarrassed because that was always about me developing. But I'm embarrassed because I recognize that I'm constantly upskilling and never getting to the stage where I acknowledge the fact that, hey, Tshepiso, you've arrived, you are okay. Because I get uncomfortable with reaching the next level. And maybe I need to learn to grow in the other areas of my life where I am more content and have gratitude. But recognize that is still a skill. I'm upskilling myself in that area, not necessarily about getting another degree. So look at all of your life areas and think about where do I need to grow? Where do I need to upskill myself? It's not just about formal education. Remember, there's also the University of Life. Maybe you also need to grow in your spirituality, your relationship with God. Upskill yourself in terms of those avenues as well. Perhaps you need to upskill yourself in terms of your people skills. You are too short with everybody and you are too, you're not attentive. You're too conceited and self-absorbed. Okay, that's the case. I need to upskill myself in that area. So look at your growth areas as where you can further stretch in terms of where you want to go, particularly aligning with where you want to go with your goals, right? The third one, my favorite topic, head, heart, body alignment. A lot of us, we wait for feedback from external sources to tell us whether we are okay or not okay, when in fact your internal frame of reference is your good temperature guide, right? It gauges you so well. When you are in touch with what's happening in your head, and you can hear that internal chatter, and you're able to connect with what your heart is telling you, what your emotions are telling you, and what your body is. I mean, you know that when I'm next to you, I make you feel uncomfortable. You don't know it, but every time when you're with me, there's this pain around your neck and around your back. Tshepiso just has this darkness around you. You just feel tense. Your body is telling you, stay away from her. She's bad juju, right? So when you listen to those kinds of things, you begin to recognize that what we call mindfulness, your awareness of where your thoughts, where your heart and your bodily sensations are. They tell you how you are doing at any point in time. And that's part of what's going to be that temperature guide for you, your true north in navigating those waters. Will I know when I'm in the right place? Will I know where I'm not at the right place? All of us end up choosing gigs or jobs that we're not very happy with. Something told us, but you thought, manish, let me just do it. And then use this period now with the lockdown to say, that gig that I said I'll do it. No, it was not the right one. now I know because the silence is loud, it's a quiet period for me to reflect. But do that, cultivate it on a daily basis to just tune in with yourself and figure out and get that alignment internally so that you know that I'm moving away from my true north. Yes, I was chasing that fashionista thing, but actually my passion is now in doing it one-on-one with people, and then you can calibrate yourself. So this is about developing your personal mastery, knowing how to be your own master of your universe, you, right? And then being able to take care of yourself. So the entire conversation about getting those basics right are about you becoming elastic. I love that picture of that woman. I aspire for that, right? To be able to bend like that. But I want you to recognize that elasticity is not just about you. It's also about how you are elastic with other people and how you cultivate it. You spoke a lot about that. When you are sharing experiences of challenges and overcoming them, you are also sharing to other people how elastic you are, right? But also being elastic is also in terms of your environment. When you are changing one environment to another, you don't stagnate, you don't marinate or settle or vegetate for too long. When you keep challenging the environments that you are in and moving from one area to another, and you don't just sit in your comfort zone, you allow yourself to also be adaptable. So I want to talk about elasticity from 3 ways, okay? There you go. And this is part of what allows you to move to the next level of being a crest jumper. In riding that wave, as you watch people who are surfing, particularly on the surfboard. Now, I know nothing about swimming, but I watch these sports things. And you watch them finding their center of gravity. That's that alignment, right? And then being able to create that balance as they're riding the wave and jumping it into the next one. So being a crest jumper means I ride the wave and I get to the top, and I know I can time it right to be able to move on to the next one, to the next opportunity to catapult me into the next phase of my life. And then part of that elasticity is about looking at 3 areas. Firstly, there's cognitive elasticity, there's behavioral elasticity, and then there's emotional elasticity. I want to go into it a little bit on each one, just to highlight a few things. The cognitive flexibility or elasticity has to do with you being able to deal with complex thinking, being able to think about something from left, right, up, down, from different perspectives. And then understanding it's not just black and white. There's gray areas. And then there's different shades of gray. And then there's things I can control and there's things I cannot control. Oh my gosh, this thing is moving all the time. How do I keep up with it? And you realize that all of that complex thinking and constantly being on your feet allows you to grow in terms of your cognitive elasticity, especially because you're in an ever-changing world. Now, COVID-19, the recession year, 2000, what year was that, Gugu? The first recession, and then there was also the 2018. Yeah, right? So all of these things, that's telling you that you can't afford to stagnate and just vegetate. You constantly need to deal with how to be in an ever-changing world, especially as a young professional who wants to keep investing in themselves and becoming relevant as new things come up. So being cognitively elastic, it has to do with learning agility, willing to learn. And learning is not just about going to school, like I said. It might mean learning to ride a bike. It might mean learning how to speak in front of people. Like next Sunday, you want to be able to say the sermon online. It might be because of now you want to learn to have tolerance from your mom. And you must just woosa when you're speaking to your mom. But learning agility is about recognizing the different areas where you want to learn. And then there's also about the growth mindset. I've got a slide that goes into that a little bit. Tenacity, then, also in terms of cognitive elasticity, has to do with you having my parelo. I don't know what you call it in Sizulu, right? But it's about that thing of having that mental strength to chip at it, to grind, to chisel it out. I'm going to carve this Michelangelo out of this, the statue of David out of this marble. I am going to continue at it no matter what. And the 2 beautiful ladies have actually spoken about that. No matter what challenges you have, you find another way of where I can stay relevant, what I need to learn, the experiences that I need to expose myself. Tshepiso said this, I want to be around here. So-and-so said this, I look at Vatishandaga, as Pal was saying, and I emulate her in the mirror. As I'm doing at the home, that's me developing that mental strength to keep at it no matter what. Behavioral elasticity has to talk about you learning new habits. Now, we've been running this campaign with Nedbank about people understanding their money habits. And one of the key things was that during the lockdown, we want you to reflect critically about, firstly, your relationship with money, but also understanding what your money archetype is. Because you can't just keep spending money and doing things thinking thinking that you're going to cultivate wealth and grow your wealth and create a legacy, when you are doing certain mistakes that are actually trapping you and sabotaging into the environment you are in. So part of your behavioral elasticity might be that I need to learn new spending habits after I understand my money archetype. But also, I need to be able to understand how to save more, or how to be able to grow the things that allow me to be more disciplined in my family and my interactions with people about money. So learning new habits is about being able to learn how to deal with the complexity and the ambiguity. You don't know where your next paycheck is going to come from. You don't know if your job is secure. We need to have that conversations with Mama about black tax. We need to make her understand that, you know what, the tithing might just need to come down, Mama. And you know that stockfare that you've been contributing. Let's come up with another one that allows us to get groceries and not just spend it to go to Durban at the end of the year. Let's find new ways. And that's what I mean by learning new habits, that you're actually coming up with ways to find ways that allow you to align with where you want to go, but deal still with the complexity and the challenges that you are facing right now. The second one in terms of behavioral elasticity is take ownership of who you are, as well as what you can and cannot control. So I don't just mean going, whoosa, when Mama asks for the next extra money when you don't have it. But I do mean also, I can't hope to change the way Mama is behaving if I don't know how to take responsibility and hold myself accountable to the way that I am behaving. I need to take responsibility for who I am. I need to understand what my limits are. I need to understand what my character flaws are. I need to understand what my strengths are. I need to understand what my habits are, like my money habits, the things that I'm doing in terms of being moreki and buying for everybody, wanting to impress people. That's why I go and get expensive bags and expensive shoes. I need to look at those things and uncover them, and then be able to deal with them properly and change me before I try to say, stop asking me for money, yet I am not changing my money habits, for example. All right? Behavioral elasticity also has to look at you having the focus and intention to take it one step at a time, to have the discipline and the consistency. The two ladies, when they were speaking, they made you realize that it took years of refinement, of practice, of trial and error, of self-talk, of crying, of dealing with rejection, of dealing with problems, of being told no and then saying, yeah, I'll show you. That takes focus and intention. And every single day when you wake up, you do it. So if you're looking at your money habits as a young professional, you are just about to go, and they've opened up now where you can do the Uber buys and then you can go and buy things. You are just about to order takeaways and then you remember you don't have enough. And you go, delete app because I'm now not going to be buying things. Because you know you don't have enough money. You understand your situation. You're having the conversations with your children. The guys, COVID-19, my sister-in-law said yesterday, the little boy struggles with focusing and doing schoolwork because online learning was never meant for little kids. So now she will watch TV the whole time. And then, so she's come up with another strategy. That's her behavioral elasticity. Load shedding. So she switches off the plugs and says there's load shedding. So that means we must study. That's her coping behavior. I thought that is ingenious. That is brilliant. That's behavioral elasticity. You find a way to deal with the complexity. And then you come up with a strategy that works right now. Because that's how you need to survive today. Your intention is to get this child to do schoolwork and find the time. So if you're going to emulate load shedding, go ahead, be it, do it. But you're going to have to get to do the things that you need to do. Nobody's going to come for you. Nobody's there to rescue you. There's no backup. So you need to cultivate those habits that allow you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. Emotional elasticity speaks about you understanding you cannot stop the waves. You can't. I gave you a long list of the challenges. All of us, I could go back into growing up in Mamelodi, where my mom got pregnant at 16. They told her, you're not going to school. Well, I don't know how many we were in the house, but I remember I always slept next to the coal stove. Nobody wanted to sleep there because it's too hot. But I knew that the ground would be warm by the time it's morning. And you were not washed then because there was no time to boil the water. So my great-grandmother, so this is me, this grandmother, she would literally bathe us with Vaseline in the morning because it's too cold in winter. But you realize that when you have come up through all of those challenges, part of being resilient is that even the challenges that I've put on that first slide, if I learn how to swim, how to surf, I can navigate these challenges, but any future challenges that come thereafter. And that's what resilience is about. So I always go back to the fact that I was sleeping on the floor next to Tofa Samalatla. When I was growing up, there wasn't enough food. Mohodu try being cooked in winter. As soon as it hits the plate, it freezes. And then you have to squeeze the little sauce out of it. And if there was no meat, you had to have pap with salt. If there was no tea, you had to have bread with water that is mixed with sugar. That level of poverty, that was my shocks when I was growing up. But it allowed me, gave me the background emotionally to have that internal elasticity, that emotional resilience to be able to say, I've faced deeper challenges. What is COVID-19? Bring it. Bring it. I will move from doing one-on-one sessions, now I'm doing online. I didn't think black people could take up to it, but they do. You know, we connect via and then we do sessions virtually. And then people are saying, but I want to see, you can't, I've got babies. So we need to do virtual. It allows you to be able to deal with the challenges that come up. So emotionally, you release yourself from the comfort position. You release yourself from being a victim to say, why me? You actually realize, you know what, I'm going to survive. I can do this. These challenges, I know I cannot control them because they're external to me. But I know if I can figure this one out, I can figure anything. My marriage, bringing up teenagers, being able to deal with in-laws, being able to deal with employees, colleagues, whatever challenges that there are. When I can deal with challenges like I am right now, it prepares me later emotionally to just be comfortable with constantly reinventing myself. The second one is that emotional elasticity has to do with you being able to stretch beyond your comfort zone. Here's where I am. You know when somebody has offended you? Pearl has offended me. I haven't seen her since COVID-19 started. And now I see her. She's not even greeting me. She gives me an elbow. And I'm thinking, plus when we're doing interviews on Mondays, Pearl, you don't even acknowledge me. So now my heart is like this. And I'm like that with everybody. Now, I am recognizing my comfort zone is that I'm always the first to be offended. And then I sit like this. So when I stretch myself beyond my comfort zone is to actually recognize that Pearl doesn't even know that I'm upset. She literally doesn't even care. She cares that I'm there, but not really significantly to the point where she's not going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I'm like this. So I need to allow myself to, whoosa, hello, Pearl, how are you? And I engage with you. And I actually realize that I can be a better person in spite of what I'm feeling. How I engage can be a better version of who I am, even as I work towards my own emotional stumbling blocks. So when I'm talking about the ability to stretch beyond your comfort zone from an emotional perspective, is where you do not let your emotions, your feelings arrest you and keep you hostage just because of you need something to happen. And because what you're feeling now, you just want to act out. So you realize I can pause them and I can navigate the situation better, be the best version of myself, irrespective of what I'm feeling right now. I can unpack it later with my therapist, but for now, let me be the best version that I need to be with this situation. Okay? Now, I wanted to go a little bit on the work of Professor Carol Dweck from Stanford University, at least when she took out this piece of work about the mindset learning. She was still at Stanford University. She's a developmental psychologist, and she teaches people about how to cultivate a growth mindset. And I've tried to summarize it. And the reason I wanted to summarize the growth mindset is particularly from a cognitive elasticity perspective, is that you actually need to be to recognize when your thoughts, as your saboteurs, trap you in situations that you are creating yourself, where you close your own doors, especially when you're facing challenges. Recognize that it's okay. All of us have flaws. We all have faults. We all make mistakes. When you have made mistakes, when you have a growth mindset, you recognize your faults, you acknowledge them, you apologize, you take responsibility, and you find out what can I do to get better from the people you've offended, but also from yourself. You recognize what do I need to do to improve on them. Not that they must learn to adapt to you. You need to learn how to be a better person. When you have a growth mindset, you are motivated to learn new things, be it riding a bike, swimming, being able to speak English, being able to speak Xhosa, whatever the issue might be. Be motivated. I think it was Pearl who said, learn to be like a child. Be excited about learning new things. So when you have a growth mindset, you are motivated all the time to learn new things. You also have a commitment to be a better person. Not because people are saying be a better person, but because you want to feel happy as a better person. When Aurelia talk about happiness, it comes from that being content with who you are and constantly working towards improving who you are and committing to it, right? And then you also learn to embrace change and growth. You don't take every challenge, all the changes that are happening in your environment as personal assaults or insults. You realize that COVID-19 has nothing to do with you. You choosing not to put on a mask or to sanitize your hands, that's you becoming an instrument to kill other people. You could be going along to see your grandparents, you're not sanitizing, you're not putting on your mask. You're going to kill your gogo because your gogo is the one who's most vulnerable right now. Take responsibility, take care of your health so that you can also help other people. Embrace the fact that we've got a new normal right now. And when you are going to deal with the reality right now and cultivate the future you want, you're going to have to grow all the time and embrace change. That's just part of it. Now, as a young professional, whether you're an entrepreneur, we know as entrepreneurs you constantly have to be able to embrace change and be able to reinvent yourself and cultivate that growth all the time. When you have a growth mindset, finally, you understand that success is a process. It's a journey. It's not where we end up. We are working towards it, which means along the way, as part of husaring, you need to be able to celebrate your milestones because this journey is long. It ends when you are dead. So as you are achieving certain milestones, recognize, oh, wow, I've now on standard 2, or that is grade 4. Grade 4. So let me celebrate this milestone. Perhaps as a young entrepreneur, you've been trying to chase that deal, and you said, I'm going to have 2.5 kids with a family, I'm going to drive that car, I'm going to live in that suburb, and now you are regressing. Recognize that part of you being able to deal with downsizing, selling that car, going back home, that's part of your journey. It doesn't mean you're going to end up there. It's just part of a setback. You will be able to push forward because your journey is still continuing. And you overcoming that challenge right now, that setback, is about you also cultivating the habits to be resilient and to continue dealing with bigger challenges in the future. Now, finally, both Aurelia and Pearl spoke about, can you please just have fun? You know, I'm an exercise fanatic. And I do spinning, I run long distance, but not the comrades. I also do aerobics, but I don't like training with people who just make you end up getting injuries, which means I check you first. But one of the things that happens when you are my age, pushing 50, right, and you're watching young people doing it, is that you realize you're going to fumble. When they're doing those step movements, when they're trying to do something and you're thinking, what, how did you get that dance move? How did you do that? Or when you are watching a seasoned athlete take that road, take that hill, and you're thinking, how do I do that? And you realize, man, one step at a time. Stop taking yourself too seriously. You realize when you are too studious and too serious about your life and you're taking yourself too seriously, you don't even enjoy the fact that you just fell. You just farted. You just got sauce on your face. Or the fact that now you've got to downsize and it's okay, you're not the only one. It's life, it happens, right? Other people have died as a result of COVID-19. Other people have lost everything. You don't know the rate of divorce. Think about that woman last week who was hung pregnant. Other people are facing worse atrocities right now. So chill a little bit. Don't take yourself too seriously. Live a little bit and understand you're not perfect. Secondly, can you please just laugh at yourself? Don't wait for people to laugh at you. Laugh at yourself. Laugh at the fact that you have been missing Pearl. Pearl, I've been missing you. I've been missing you. And then you laugh at yourself because you realize, I didn't realize I need people. I thought I was an introvert, but I actually miss people. And then cultivate that good sense of humor throughout. Most of us have been locked in with our loved ones. After a while, we don't like them. Most of us have been cooking every day. Now we don't want to eat healthy food anymore. And then the fridge is empty and you couldn't be bothered to go and buy new things because you have been eating healthy things. And now you just want to be able to chill. Because, come on, guys, can we just live? And let's just live and enjoy what we have today. The present is a present. It's a gift. Let's enjoy it. Thirdly, can you rest? As a young professional, you've been hustling. You've been running the gig economy, working very hard, trying to make sure that you are relevant and constantly pushing. Let's get our paper. I think that's what my kids say. Get your paper. Can you rest? Take the time to relax. Yeah, all right? Don't underestimate the value of sleep. Yes, you slept during level 5, but you need to have a routine where you include sleep. All right? Also, choose the people you are with. I spoke a little bit about some of the people you might be around. You are aware that they are not very good around you. They don't have good energies. They don't want the good things from you. So choose your cheerleaders and your mentors wisely. It's important that when you surround yourself with people, you want them to be able to cultivate that spirit of you being young. They're not jealous of you being young. They're not jealous of you being a professional. They're not jealous about you wanting to reinvent yourself and try new things. They're not embarrassed about you failing. They say, oh, Mngani, you've done it. You try again. It's okay. We're all doing it. We're all grinding. So you want to be able to have your cheerleaders or your mentors very wisely surrounding you with them. And those who are not serving you in your growth, it's okay to give them leave or social distancing. Right? Those are my final thoughts. And what I want to final words to you is that you're going to be okay. It is okay. We're all in this together. As a young professional, you will achieve what you need. You will reach those goals. It might not be this year. It might be 2021 or 2022. Prepare yourself to get there. Preparation, when it meets opportunity, you're going to achieve that greatness. Work at being elastic and riding this this wave. You will be able to make it at the end of the day. Thank you.
Sure. Dr. Tshepiso, I can go on and on about the names of people here. Mahlatsi, Nduduzo, Tulufelo, Nomzamo. The list goes on about individuals who have certainly said that you've hit the nail on the head in terms of giving us a step-by-step guide to understand how we need to conquer this particular crisis, being COVID-19, as well as our own internal struggles. So we really thank you for the feedback that you've provided today. We have a stream of questions that have come through both on social media as well as on our Q&A service. And we thank you, though, for participating and sharing your views. Unfortunately, we are cognizant of time, and because we respect and value your time, we will make the responses to the questions available following this particular presentation. But I must tell you, ladies, you've gotten phenomenal feedback from everybody who has watched today, and most importantly, I think what the both of you have identified and have brought forward to this conversation is that this world of professionalism is no longer a tick box exercise as we know it. I studied accounting. I'm far from being a CA, but yet I speak to them and interact with CEOs. You yourself are an advocate, and there's a question that actually relates to being how your pupillage process worked out. Guess what? She didn't do it. Exactly. Yourself as well, Paul. You've taken on so many roles in terms of professionalizing your own speaking space and, of course, then looking to study and invest in property as an entrepreneur as well. So it really does bring to the fore that you can be a professional in the spaces that you seek. Whether you've got the qualified academic qualification, you don't necessarily have to follow the block tick box exercise to get there. So we are excited. We do want to stick and pick your brains for a lot longer. Unfortunately, though, we are under pressure for time and will be responding to those questions via a transcript. But to all of you who've participated, all of you who've engaged, most importantly, we're trusting that you've been left inspired and most importantly propelled to actually understand that firstly, you are not alone. As Dr. Tshepiso mentioned, there are certain steps that we need to take in order to make sure that we evolve, we adapt and we pivot in order to make sure that we stay relevant. But be kind to yourself. Things will be okay. It might take some time, but it will be okay in the end. And if it's not, then it probably isn't the end. Exactly. To my guests who have joined us today, thank you so much for your time. Dr. Tshepiso, incredible thank you. Aurelia, Advocate Aurelia Nxumalo, and Paul Shongwe, we're really appreciative of the gift of time that you've shared with us here today. And you can keep the conversation going and share the message with your peers. A link to this webcast will be provided on Nedbank's YouTube page, and it will also be emailed to you in the communication you received upon registration. Until then, keep pushing your goals, remain confident, chip away at what it is that you need to accomplish, and remember that at the end, we'll all be okay. Keep using the hashtag Nedbank Young Pro and hashtag MyFutureGoals. From myself and the team here, it's been a phenomenal opportunity being with you. We thank you for your time and wish you a wonderful day further.